Hello, everyone. This is Kripa Anand, and welcome to the CanadianSME Small Business Podcast. Today, we are analyzing the operational blueprint of service based business scaling, backend tech stack optimization, and human resource delegation. In 2026, avoiding operational burnout and protecting your time as an entrepreneur requires moving past messy manual administration to install hyper efficient automations, custom CRM architectures, and structural virtual support teams. Joining us today is Adriana Fierastrau, the online business manager and founder and CEO of Ontario Assistant. Adriana is a high impact systems architect and operations consultant who specializes in turning chaotic business backends into streamlined, highly profitable workflows. A University of Toronto graduate with a Conestoga College postgraduate credential, her extensive operations background spans international mandates in Canada and Scotland, alongside deep legal sector experience. She is also a renowned radio host of Negotiating Happiness on UPRN FM, New Orleans. So, before further ado, let's welcome this very special guest. Adriana, welcome to the podcast. Such a pleasure to have you with us.
Hi there. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here. And again, thank you for the platform. I get so excited talking about this.
Of course, even I'm looking forward to the conversation, Adriana. Now, many service based small businesses, hit a very sudden growth ceiling where the owner is completely buried under client communication, scheduling, and, so many admin tasks. So, let's start the conversation by understanding from your perspective what are the most common operational bottlenecks in service based business in your experience?
So every time I talk to a new client or a lead or just even, a networking connection, you sort of see this um, wave of relief on their face when I start describing these bottlenecks because they quickly realize that they're not the only one in this position. So, um, it's just the feeling of being tired, of being messy, or your work is scattered across all kinds of tools, or
Mhm.
you're feeling like nothing is really clicking together. Or a really easy way to tell is, hey, when was the last time you took vacation? And then they just kind of go blank because
Right.
they're like, "What do you mean? I run my own business. I can't take vacation, or if I'm taking a vacation, it's a working vacation, right?" So, it's, decision fatigue, right? So when you hear that they just can't make any more decisions or that it's just too much, or, the word overwhelm just appears everywhere, and you
Right.
start to see it in the client work, you start to see it in the operations, you fall behind on things that should be kind of main priority, it just becomes a little bit too much to handle.
Definitely. I think you've hit the nail on the head because identifying exactly where your manual tasks clog up, client booking pipelines, and they affect the sale revenue as well. And
Yes.
that is definitive first step to reclaiming your administrative sanity. So for you, did you always knew that you wanted to become an entrepreneur or a founder growing up, or was it something that you stumbled upon in your career?
So I always knew I wanted to work for myself. I just didn't know in what capacity. So throughout
Hmm.
my career, I've sort of been open to doing a lot of different things, which is great because this is what this job entails, right? In order to
Right.
find custom solutions for people, you kind of have to think outside the box. So I always knew that I liked law. I liked, I wanted to go into the corporate world, which I think really gave me a really good foundation for entrepreneurship and an understanding of time, right?
Hmm.
And with that came some of the creative parts. So I knew I wanted to work for myself, and it actually just came up when after I had my son. I
Oh,
wanted the
wow.
flexibility. Yeah, I wanted the flexibility, and I also wanted to be that person that could switch from one thing to the other. So this is perfect. I work with a lot of service-based clients that
Hmm.
are in different industries. So for me, it keeps it fresh. It keeps it really interesting just switching from one end to the other, right? So, it actually happened out of a really kind of a struggle story, which I find that a lot of entrepreneurs I talk to,
Uh-huh.
that's how they start out, is with a struggle story that kind of
Yeah.
becomes like, "Hey, look at what I built out of this struggle."
Right.
And it was I had really bad back pain after I had my son, and I remember calling, like, 10 different physiotherapists in
Okay.
Guelph, and
Uh-huh.
only about 2 got back to me, and I just sat there thinking, you could tell that they were kind of sole practitioners and probably didn't have a lot of help or dedicated help to handle leads coming in. And I just kept thinking, I was like, wow, I would have paid anything if somebody like could get me in, the next day. So that's when I
Yeah.
started thinking, I was like, I could be that person for those businesses. And then all of a sudden I just started doing it.
That's amazing. So much more power to you. And, with this, motherhood changes everything, right?
Yeah.
So, has it changed your perspective on leadership or life as well in general?
Yes, I think you always hear people talk about work-life balance, so that's something that it's a very common term being
Yeah.
thrown around. But with motherhood, and maybe people come to this conclusion before then, but this is just when it happened for me. I realized that balance is a lot more um, important than just the work-life balance
Yeah.
kind of concept. And you're never done. You're never at the point where you're like, okay, I've achieved it, because tomorrow there's something else, right? So then you have
Yes.
you fall back and you're like, okay, we're working up again to get that balance back. So I think it just taught me that nothing is permanent, everything is temporary, and we're always working towards a better goal.
Definitely. I am so inspired by, your thought process and the way that you articulate everything. Now, in this journey of entrepreneurship, I'm sure with your extensive experience, now AI is into the picture as well, right? So that changes the conversation totally. Artificial intelligence is not even a buzzword anymore, right? It's literally everywhere, changing lives every day. So, from that perspective, Adriana, how exactly do you decide between, you know, AI, automation, and then hiring someone in person or, a human assistant? So, how do you make that decision of that choice?
Mhm. I love this question because we start off with an audit typically for all of our clients, and one of the parts in the audit is this game that we like to play, and it's called Delegate, Automate, Keep, and Delete. So it's just a
Oh,
simple chart with 4 columns that have
uh-huh.
Delegate, Automate, Keep, and Delete. And what that means is we ask
That
them.
almost sounds like a song. Can you just say that again?
Yeah, delegate, automate, keep, and delete. Yeah, it's
Amazing.
supposed to. You're supposed to remember it because
Yeah, yeah.
you should be doing periodically. But it's this game that we play with them, and we say at the beginning of the audit when they're filling out questions, they do it, and then they do it again after the audit because you could tell that their perspective changes, and that's what
Mm,
we want, right? So, for example, in order to answer your question, we look at whatever your role is. So you have to look at your tasks and you say, what can I put in the delegate column? Like, what would I like somebody else to do that I don't want to do, but it's important? Then what would I like to automate? And usually the client doesn't know all the different ways that, things could be automated. So we never
yeah.
expect them to have it all perfect, but we expect them to know that they have to be open to, hey, some of this can be done with automations or with tech. So what would you like that to be? And then the keep column is kind of the trick column because speaking with really inspiring and driven people, they always want to do more. So they tend to hold on to a lot more tasks in the keep column
Uh-huh.
than they should, right? And then the delete column is once you've experienced growth a couple of times, you realize that some of your processes are outdated now and they're not necessary anymore because you've
Mhm.
added too much on the other side. So the whole goal of the game is to have as little information in the keep column as possible. So this is how you decide, right? You talk to us, we go through it, and we say, actually, we could get some of the things that you want to delegate, we can get an AI to do it, or we can get the CRM to do it, we can get
Mhm.
a project management tool to do it. So then you're saving like human resource time, right? And then whatever else is left in there, we say these are really good tasks to delegate because they require a human touch. Or just in the automation section, you require having, a virtual assistant that kind of babysits these things to make sure that they do go on and they're done properly because AI is not perfect. It's based on human model thinking, right? So it's
Exactly.
it's not
Yeah.
perfect. So this is sort of a game that we used to play even before AI was so embedded in people's businesses, but this
Mm,
really lays it out for them and it's clear and they understand and they're like, "Oh, I can actually get done this much with a $40 subscription a month versus
mm.
having a virtual assistant that handles the higher end, with higher
Right.
capacity tasks that I
Right.
need for probably, I don't know, $40 an hour, whatever the case may be, right? So this is how we decide, because everybody's business is different. We can't, it's not a cookie cutter sort of
Right.
deal, you know?
Yeah, one size does not fit all, definitely.
Correct, correct.
So, thank you so much for that answer. And building on what you've said, Adriana, I'd like to give a special message to all of our listeners now, specifically to all the agency founders, medical professionals out there, and service based business owners who are listening and watching this. In 2026, losing premium clients simply because you are too busy to reply to an intake email is an operational failure. Adriana and her elite operations manager at Ontario Assistant are completely changing how small businesses function behind the scenes. Moving past generic corporate templates, Ontario Assistant builds a custom automated tech stack, unifying your CRMs, project management boards, and marketing flows into a single, unbreakable infrastructure. As Adriana prepares to launch her highly anticipated new book detailing operations growth cycles, her agency is offering customized workflows and SOP development that reduce software costs and let you step back from micromanagement. If you are ready to eliminate back-end overwhelm and give your company the scalable structure it truly deserves, visit ontarioassistant.com today to secure an operational consultation. Reclaim your time with the premier Canadian systems innovator. Coming back to you now, Adriana, what you said, balancing the AI tools with, understanding what needs to be kept and what needs to be delegated. I think this is going to be something so simple but so powerful if people actually start using it as well.
Yeah.
Now, moving ahead, let's do a little time travel. Imagine if I were to give you a time machine right now and we were to go 5 or 10 years into the future. When you get out of the time machine, how exactly do you envision Ontario Assistant taking over Ontario, Canada, and eventually the globe?
What a question. Okay. I think I am leaning towards the pillar of education more. So I'm thinking that in about 5 years, I'm going to have my book out. My book is about, how to scale growth, the operations, um, behind the scenes growth
Hmm.
cycles and how that affects scaling, right? And just to have a general guide for people that want to even open up their own business or be an entrepreneur, right? So I'm leaning into a lot of the education pieces. I think that in 5 years, the words online business manager, and virtual assistant are not going to be, a curiosity anymore. People are going to have embedded these roles into their businesses a lot easier. I
Hmm.
specifically for Ontario Assistant, I think we're going to expand, to the point where we have sort of separate, categories where we work with entrepreneurs or teams of 1 to 2 versus medium sized, corporations or companies as well, because we do pivot a lot between that. So
Hmm.
I think we'd be a bit more, developed in that sense, but also our third leg of this whole operation would be education and speaking and putting on events that help entrepreneurs kind of figure out that you don't have to do all of it by yourself, but there are things that you can do yourself in order to put yourself on this path, in order to use these resources, because technology is very, it's very fast. It's AI is learning at a rapid rate. We don't quite comprehend it yet, to
Hmm.
be perfectly honest. So I think we want to lean into that to show people that it's here to stay. And Ontario Assistant is one of those names that you think of when you say, I have no idea what I'm doing. I need some guidance, and we want to be there.
That is amazing. You've painted quite a picture there. The future definitely looks very promising. Adriana, I'm loving this conversation today. And definitely, I'd love for you to be back, hopefully, for an in person episode that we do the next with you.
Yes. Yes.
But for now, before we let you go, if there's one final piece of advice that you have for our listeners today, specifically if you want them to maintain their, happiness quotient and personal happiness, and not get drowned by so much noise that is out there, if you could whisper one thing into their ears, what would you say and why?
Ooh, I love this. I think My one piece of advice would be treat time and energy as an asset early on. Because as entrepreneurs and driven people, we want to do things ourselves, either to save money or we think we're saving time, but we're not giving the people that have the experience and knowledge a chance to show us how to do it a lot faster and a lot easier. So you're actually giving away your most precious asset, which is your time and energy. The moment you start thinking of it like that, you start making different decisions for your company. So that would be my only, treat time and energy as an asset early.
That is a beautiful reminder and, a very candid one as well. So,
Mhm.
Adriana, thank you so much for being here. It was such a pleasure having you on the show.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate this. And you're doing an amazing thing with your platform. And I really hope that other entrepreneurs tune in because there's a lot of really good information here that you're offering.
Yes, and we can't wait to have you back as well. So, I was serious about that.
I will happily come.
All right, that was Adriana Fierastrau from Ontario Assistant, a masterclass in diagnosing service based bottlenecks, deploying high impact automations to free up 100 plus hours, and understanding how her upcoming book on operations growth cycles help entrepreneurs scale sustainability in 2026. To all the listeners, thank you so much for tuning in to the Canadian SME Small Business Podcast. Be sure to subscribe and visit CanadianSME.ca for more such resources. To learn more about how we are supporting the ecosystem, please visit the Canadian SME Small Business Foundation at smbfoundation.ca. And lastly, a very special thank you to our partners. UPS, our shipping partner, and ADP, our HR partner, for their ongoing commitment to empowering SMBs across Canada. I'll see you all in the next episode. Kripa Anand signing off.